Hello everybody! Welcome back to another episode of Slay It, where we dare to dream big. So I know it's been a while ever since I did an interview style video. The last video I released was a Project Week vlog that I did for my school, and the video I released before that was a breakdown of the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority and its local public transit lines. But today we are breaking the drought, and boy do we have some good guests today. Before I introduce them and say who they are and why they're even on Slay It, I have a question for the people watching. Have you ever thought about your education? I'll admit, before prepping for this video, I hadn't really thought about my quality of education either. But while I was preparing for this interview, I sat down and I thought to myself, is there someone else in the world who doesn't have the same access to the high quality education that I and other people do in the US? And I quickly realized that there are. In fact, there are a lot of people around the world who don't have that same access to the education that I do. And the organization SpeakUp Scholars seeks to solve that problem. Today on Slay It, I have two of the leaders of SpeakUp Scholars who will talk a little bit about how they have made a difference in so many students' lives across the world in terms of the education that they're getting. I'm excited to welcome onto Slay It Rishi Sikh, the Chief Executive Officer of SpeakUp Scholars, and Saina Dwivedi, the Chief Operating Officer of SpeakUp Scholars. It really is a pleasure to have both of you here on Slay It. You've both done so much in really solving this problem that I'd really only thought about when preparing for this interview. So thank you for bringing attention to it for me and to the people watching as well. And yeah, for those of you watching, I hope you enjoy the interview, and please do consider liking and subscribing to my channel. So without further ado, let's begin. So I'll just ask each of you just to introduce yourselves, as well as just a brief overview of SpeakUp Scholars, the organization you both head. We'll start off with Rishi for this one.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Rishi. I'm the CEO of SpeakUp Scholars. So to get into what SpeakUp Scholars does, we were founded in July of 2025, and we're actually the first youth-led nonprofit organization dedicated to enhancing educational equity among ELL learners specifically through speech and debate in the world, actually. So far, we're currently serving 6,400 students across 5 countries, and we're helping them with debate, with enhancing their public speaking skills, and also just like basic tutoring, math, English, science.
That's great. Yeah, I just visited your website before doing the interview actually, and I saw like the big numbers and statistics you guys have on your page. It really is amazing what you guys have accomplished in such a short period of time as well. So yeah, over to you, Saina, just to give a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Sana Betty. I'm at the COO of SpeakUp Scholars, and I'm in 10th grade and living in SoCal. In addition to what Rishi said, we create daily educational videos on social media on topics ranging from debate tips to absolute value, and we've reached over 200,000 views now, and we currently have 24 volunteers who are all committed to SpeakUp Scholars and its noble mission. But as you said, you saw the big numbers on our website. But what's so meaningful to me is not just the numbers, but the impact behind them.
Very profound, very profound. Yes, all right, thank you for that introduction, and now we'll be heading into the next question in our interview. So as they say with every great mission, everything has to start somewhere, and that's what this question is about. So how did each of you get interested in starting SpeakUp Scholars? Where did it start? What was the inspiration, and how did you build up so much support for it to get it to where it is today? So for this one, since we start off with Rishi for the last one, we'll start off with Saina for this one.
Okay, so honestly, even though Rishi and I were going to the same school for such a long time, I had no idea who he was. And then one day this video pops up on my feed and it's a SpeakUp Scholars video. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is interesting. So I look into it and I really liked the work that this organization was doing. So I applied to join. It was really inspirational being on the outside of it, but now that I'm on the inside of the organization, my perspective has shifted entirely because it's one thing to watch a movement from the outside, but to be actually behind the scenes is completely different. And I love ensuring that every student who reaches out to us has the same opportunity as the next. So honestly, it was just a very profound experience.
That's great. I really, really liked what you said about seeing the movement from the outside is such a different perspective from being involved in it from the inside. Cause like, I guess it's like, oh, you wanted to say
No,
something?
yeah, completely. Because on the outside, you don't really get an insight onto how much work is being done behind the scenes. And it's just a really great movement that we have here.
Yeah, I feel like it's also something that everybody says. It's like being the bystander versus being the upstander. And I think it's great that like you took the initiative that instead of just remaining the bystander and watching this organization progress, you decided to join the movement and play a part in getting it to where it is today. So I applaud you for your courage and your initiative in really joining this movement. So Rishi, your turn. How did you get interested in starting Speak Up Scholars?
Yeah, so earlier in the introduction, I gave quite a multifaceted mission, and I'd like to just break it down as to how that came to life. So it started in my ninth grade biology class when there was a girl, I'm not going to say her name, but the teacher paired me with her because she was an immigrant from Russia and she didn't speak the language and she was having trouble translating her assignments into English, getting it done properly. And essentially, obviously, I became friends with her. It was more than just me helping her do her schoolwork. And we were talking about some of the stuff that we do outside of, just school. Among those was speech and debate. I was telling her about my latest speech and debate topic because that's also an activity I partake in. And I was shocked when she found out that she didn't even know speech and debate was an activity offered. She never really had that access to it because of the language barrier. So later that summer, my summer after my freshman year, that's when I really was motivated to start Speak Up Scholars. And I guess it started like I remember the first day I had this idea, I bought a domain on GoDaddy and I created a website because that's what I thought every single official nonprofit had. And then after that, it was literally just me calling 20, 30 of my friends and saying like, "Hey, I'm starting this thing. Do you want to come? Do you want to volunteer? We can, make the world a better place through breaking down that barrier of inequitable education." And from there, after we got a few friends, after people started seeing the work like sign I did online, it kind of just grew itself and more people started to join.
That's wow. I guess I heard a little bit about the story of how it started from you, but never really like this in detail. And I guess that just really goes to show that it's like you don't need to like reinvent the wheel in order to like make a difference in the world. Like with what you did, you had a simple interaction with an immigrant in your school. You learned about like this is an issue that needs to be solved, but I don't see any action being taken on it currently. And you didn't try to do any like over the top actions to try to get it on the road and try to get it progressing to where it is today. You just called 20, 30 of your friends, and then from there, you never looked back. That's where the progression to where you were today really started. So I guess that just really goes to show that it's about deciding the mission you want to tackle and being committed to it, being willing to go to the ends of the earth in order to take care of that mission and solve it. And then from there, everything else is secondary. And I really like how your story really illustrated that. So thank you for sharing that with us. So on to our next question. So in the last interview style video I did, I interviewed two community leaders of East Boston, Kananthira Vengadam of Eastie Farm and Bill Masterson of Tree Eastie. And they both named a time where they saw the impact of their work on others and how it really went to show that they weren't just establishing this organization for show or to like look good on their resume or whatever. It was actually making a difference in people's lives. So this next question is kind of asking you about the same thing. Just name a time when you've seen the impact of Speak Up Scholars' work on others. We'll start with Rishi for this one.
Yeah, no, that's honestly been the biggest reward of itself of doing Speak Up Scholars. It's seeing the impact, it's seeing the value that, just a few high school volunteers living in Southern California can have on the world. So for this, let's go with 6-year-old Oliver. So Oliver's mom reached out to me. I was at an outreach fair for one of the local elementary schools. And Oliver's mom picked up our flyer and she emailed me later that day saying, "Hey, my son, he needs help with his public speaking because A, it's just going to help him become a better person, and public speaking, as I'm sure you all know, is such a valuable skill no matter what profession you're in. And also, he was lacking, the confidence in school to interact with others. And when it came time to presenting at school, making sure that he could do so properly. So I was more than happy to help, So I hopped on a Zoom call with him and I did a lesson with him. And that was amazing for me. Like before the session, what I did was I printed out a speech and I had him read it for me. And after we were working on intonation, pauses, and inflection, and seeing how he was able to transform like a duller, boring speech about pizza in Italy to talking about fun facts, talking about where it was originated, why it was originated, that for me was the most impactful time I've seen our work affect someone else. I was really able to see what just a few volunteers can do.
The part of that story that was amazing, by the way, but the part of that really struck for me was 6 years old, a 6 year old child learning how to enhance his public speaking skills at such a young age. Like when I was 6 years old, I definitely was not like working on enhancing my public speaking skills. But to be able to foster that skill at such a young age is really like that in itself is already amazing that you were able to help with that. And additionally, when I heard you talking about like how debate and public speaking skills is one of the things that Speak Up Scholars assists with, I feel like that I agree. That is something that I feel like is a little bit overlooked by organizations having a similar mission as you guys. I feel like most of it is just focused on like foundational skills such as math, English, science, social studies, stuff like that. But I feel like as you were talking about and as Oliver's mom mentioned, the whole reason that she wanted Oliver to come to you for public speaking assistance is that it's such a vital skill that can help you in so many different areas of your life. And I think that story, additionally, with just the whole overarching mission of Speak Up Scholars, just really goes to show that that really is a helpful skill in so many different areas of your life. So thanks for sharing that story with us. Over to you, Saina. So name a time when you saw the impact of Speak Up Scholars' work on others.
Yeah, so I think it's really helpful that both Rishi and I are very heavily involved in the debate club at our school. But honestly, it's just amazing to see the impact from elementary schoolers to high schoolers. And we have people come into our tutoring sessions not knowing anything and then leave knowing most of the material and acing their tests. And honestly, Speak Up Scholars has become really big at my school because I'll have people that have never spoken to come up to me, say they saw my videos and that they actually learned something from it, which is just amazing. And just a couple of days ago, I was listening in on a conversation between Rishi and our school counselor, and she recalled watching one of our videos and she showed it to one of her kids, which was really funny, but also ironic because school is like the platform that regulates resources. I don't know if you have the same thing at your school, but our school regulates resources on our computers, so we can't access like some news sites when we want to do research, which is kind of limiting in debate. But like we saw in this example, it became the platform to bridge that gap because now we have the educators who are actually listening to our voices, which was really amazing.
The one of the reasons I really like that story as well is because it's sort of going back to the perspective thing you said as well. These bans were administered on like these sites that were really helpful for debate, right? But once you sort of showed your side of the story to your teachers, that has sort of especially helped them to put themselves in your shoes and understand that having access to these sites could be really helpful for researching debate topics and just getting prepped on these things that you need to know for speech and debate. So I really like that story because once again, it was sort of going back to what you said earlier on the whole perspective point and how that's a big part of how you got involved in Speak Up Scholars and a big part of that story that you just told about the impact of Speak Up Scholars' work on others. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. All right, on to the next question. So once again, I asked this question in my previous interview with Cunnan and Bill. How do you manage to balance your work at Speak Up Scholars with the other things you do? Because as you just mentioned, you guys are part of the debate club at your school. I'm sure you do a lot of other stuff besides that, having to deal with your schoolwork and maybe family matters or whatever else you may need to tend to. So that's what this question is centered around. Just how do you manage to balance what you do at Speak Up Scholars with all the other things you do in your life? We can start with Sign Up for this one.
So I have the mindset that nothing is ever too much. It's only if I believe that it's too much. And it's honestly just all a mental finish line in the end because I'm very positive when it comes to getting my work done, like, growth mindset. But if I believe that I can handle all the work of Speak Up Scholars along with my schoolwork and extracurriculars, my capacity expands to meet that challenge because I refuse to let a self-imposed limit reduce what I can contribute to my community. But beyond that, I've also learned to be very intentional with my time and prioritize what actually aligns with my goals and make sure I'm fully present in whatever I'm doing. So like in school for debate, like I make sure that all my extracurriculars are aligned to meet the same goal. So for example, if I have a busy week, I'll plan ahead and break like smaller manageable parts into like each day. And so an example of that is I have to submit my daily videos on Wednesday. They get posted on Wednesdays. But if I'm busy on a Wednesday, then I'll make sure I do my video a couple days in advance. Or I have to submit my video for India on a Saturday. I'll make sure that I get my video done a couple days in advance so I have growth time. I make sure to always submit my stuff on time. But yeah, I just make sure that everything feels doable because I'm working towards the same goal.
I think that's the first time I've like ever heard that sort of mindset. It's like if you believe it's too much for you, then it is too much for you, like in your head, and you won't be able to do it. But as soon as you believe that I can handle all this, I can do all these tasks, your capacity begins to expand. I think I'll probably have to start implementing that in my life because my school is also extremely rigorous. They assign us a lot of work. Most of the time in the evenings, I'm actually spending time doing my homework above like everything else I have to do. One saying that actually comes to mind when you said that was, I think it was a saying by Walt Disney, which was like, if you can dream it, then you can do it, which might be a little bit more large scale than what you were talking about there. But I think it starts with being able to believe you can handle all these tasks and then growing that to a larger mission in which if you believe you can accomplish this large mission and help all these people, such as what you're doing at Speak Up Scholars, then you really can make a difference in the world and help the crowd that you were intending to help with your services.
Yeah, honestly, it's just all about your mindset. You just have to put your mind to something and get it done.
Get it done. Put your mind to something and get it done. All right. I like that. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. All right, Rishi, your turn. How do you manage to balance your work at Speak Up Scholars with the other things you do?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think it comes down to two main things. So first, as Sina was touching on, it's about time management and it's being intentional where you put your time. I think every so often I'll stop myself and I'll say, am I doing what I'm doing right now? Is that the best use of my time? Can I be putting that somewhere else? Can I be putting that towards working for grants for Speak Up Scholars, or can I be putting that towards managerial stuff? So I think the biggest thing is making sure and recognizing that every single person has the same 24 hours in the day. It really comes down to how we choose to spend it. And for me, it's making sure that I'm spending each hour intentionally and making sure that every single hour is being used towards promoting the mission of Speak Up Scholars. The second answer is, quite frankly, I don't. I don't do everything myself. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned about being a leader. It's that you don't have to do everything yourself. So what I do is I delegate my tasks. So on that grants thing, right now I'm having our CFO, Oliver, work on his grants. We have 5 or 6 grants that we're applying to right now. We're planning on buying some bilingual books for underserved students. But him and his finance team are working on that. And I'm checking in with that daily, asking how I can help. I think the biggest thing is like the best leaders make sure that their system is self-autonomous. Like everyone is doing a good amount of work leading their own division. So I have someone who's leading our social media division, someone who's leading our daily videos division, and someone who's leading our finance division, right? It's about making sure that I'm delegating all of those tasks to those people. So not only it makes my life easier, but also it makes sure that, everyone's getting involved, everyone's working towards that collective mission.
Also, wait, is this the same, that Oliver, who's your CFO, is this the same 6-year-old Oliver who you taught debate to?
No, not a different Oliver, but maybe one day, who knows?
Yeah, maybe one day. But I really like the point that you said about delegating tasks, because when I asked this question to Kanan in my previous interview style video, that is exactly what he said. The first thing he said was like, who told you I balanced them? And he was like, I mean, I try, but I make mistakes and I have to like fine tune this, fine tune that. But in the end, it's about finding people who are willing to do the task, who can do the task, who are up to do the task, and by delegating that task to them, you, the whole organization, and the person who you delegated the task to can end up getting so much more work done. So I think before I did that video and before like I'm doing this video, I always thought like by balancing, it's like you like, okay, you have to set aside this time for something. You have to set aside this time for something to make sure you can do all this stuff. But after hearing that answer from Kanan and after hearing that answer from you, I, in the end, realized that, like you said, how do you balance all the work you do at SpeakUp Scholars with all the other things you do? You simply just don't. I mean, it's not like you don't get it done, but like what you said, you give that work to other people so that you and the whole organization overall is just much more efficient in the work it's getting done. So very profound answer and very wise answer. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So on to the next question. So I feel like you covered this briefly in your previous answers, but I just ask you, each of you, to just go a little bit more in depth into exactly how did you grow SpeakUp Scholars past just their Southern California environment into a worldwide organization that's in exactly 5 countries. So, Sana, since you seem willing and ready, we can start with you for this one.
So we realized very early on that if we wanted to reach students beyond our own zip code, we had to first work on building a social media platform because that's primarily the source of how people do outreach these days, right? So just yesterday, we had one of our videos playing during Saturday school in a school in India. So how we jumped that far is something I'll let Rishi do the honor of explaining.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is probably sending out 75,000 emails. So, okay, it wasn't that amount, but a lot of it was just cold email and cold outreach. It was having someone who is going to schools in Spain, Mexico, India, China, reaching out to all of those different schools, seeing if we do have connections abroad, seeing if somehow we can connect with schools. So, like Sana was saying, I'll go more into depth as to how we got the partnership in India. It was so I am from India, and while I was there, I was reaching around my society, seeing how I myself can get more involved, right? Because although we were there for some family stuff, I did still want to get involved in the international community. And while I was there, I was volunteering at a local school. I was helping tutor these students in English and helping them develop and foster biliteracy. But when I came home, and this was like a year before SpeakUp Scholars started, but the biggest thing for me was I made sure to get that contact. I made sure to build that connection with someone else. So that a year later, when SpeakUp Scholars was started, and we were looking and we recognized that the problem of ELL students goes beyond just Southern California and it's something the world should address, I went to that contact. I said, hey, we have this thing. Do you think that could be something that you could help us implement in your schools? And that contact was the principal of those schools. So, I mean, he had final say over the curriculum. But yeah, it was making sure that you're building a true connection with people and that you're able to, have people help you out in implementing curriculum. I think one of the biggest things in India that's helped is on Saturday, they have this concept of a bagless day where it's purely just you go for, I wouldn't say recreational activities, but like more academically enriching activities. So, for example, our debate classes, they'll do financial literacy classes, they'll do chemistry experiments. But the biggest thing was just cold outreach and cold emailing. And yes, it's hard. It is very, very hard. But the biggest thing is that you have to persevere through it. And right now, actually, we are looking for a director of international relations that should be decided in the next coming weeks, but hopefully we can have someone else taking that process more.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. I think I also am part of like a statewide coalition in my state called the Massachusetts Youth Climate Coalition. And while we were planning one of our biggest events, which is the MYCC Advocacy Day, we also had to do a lot of cold outreach, just sending emails to schools or to like previous Advocacy Day attendees or members of the organization. And I can vouch for Rishi. It is painstaking work. But I think that's honestly, it's not as bad as it seems, because if you look at it from a different lens, rather than being like, oh, I have to send all these emails, have a more optimistic eye to it, being like, if someone responds to one of these emails, then that could be great for us. We could have a whole new foothold in this country, or we could get more outreach to this place or that place. And I think, sort of just contributing to what you two said, it's a lot of about having optimism in the process and reaping the rewards of the hard work that you put in, rather than having the pessimism of like having to do all this work. Because in the end, I think, Rishi, you can say this, that cold outreach did not go to waste, right? It did dividends for your organization and helped you get a lot more outreach. And am I correct about that?
No, for sure. Yeah, a lot of our numbers, I guess, if you want to talk about that, has come from externally and it's come from that outreach.
Yeah, definitely. And it's actually really heartwarming to get these pictures back from these Saturday sessions and see all the kids just sitting there and watching our videos and actually learning. Like we had a student from India in one of the videos, she stood up and she was trying to teach her classmates like what we were saying. So it was just very heartwarming.
That's great. That's one of the best parts of managing an organization like this, seeing the impact that you have on people around the world. And I think that you two have talked about this continually throughout this interview. So I thank you for really bringing attention to the joy that that gives you when you're managing an organization such as SpeakUp Scholars. So thank you for that. And now on to our final question of this really informative interview. I just want to thank you guys for being able to make some time for this as well. I'm aware you both have very busy schedules, but yeah, thank you for being able to make time for this. So for our last question, this is something that I always ask people who come on Slay It, because this is one of the primary missions of Slay It, is to provide advice to those watching as to who may be inspired by the work of those appearing on Slay It, as to how to follow in their footsteps and as to how to exemplify excellence in the field that people on Slay It are exemplifying excellence in. So that's what this last question is about. What advice would you give to people looking to start an organization similar to the one that you manage, SpeakUp Scholars? We'll start off with Sina for this one.
So I'd say it definitely takes a lot of commitment. And I think we can all agree on that. Like in any area of our life, to expand it, to grow it, it takes commitment. But specifically, it takes determination to outlast the no's that we constantly receive. So when you're in high school starting a global organization, people will doubt your experience. They're going to doubt your age. They're going to doubt how you look. You're going to outreach, you're going to send them emails, but they might not respond simply because of the fact that you're still in high school. So you need to be determined to let your results speak louder than your age. And you really need to be committed to the process because it's all about determination. You want people to look past your age and to look at the work you're doing. So I think that's very important. You need to outlast the no's.
Outlast the no's. That's the first time I've ever heard that. Outlast the no's. Um, I also really like the point that you brought up on age, because I feel like a lot of people, when they see the work that is being done by organizations such as SpeakUp Scholars, I feel like the first question they'll ask is, how old are the founders? Or like, how old are the people working for this organization? How much experience do they have? Do they even know what the heck they're doing? And I feel like age isn't everything when it comes to this. Like every day you see prodigies playing the violin, or you see like a 13-year-old entrepreneur appearing on Shark Tank, or you see people in high school, such as the two of you, starting a worldwide organization that's already making the difference in so many people's lives. So I really love the point that you brought up about outlasting the no's, and about how age isn't everything, and about how encouraging people to look past your age and instead look at the work that you're doing for so many people around the world. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing that.
definitely. It's so easy to lose credibility in this world when people find out that you're just a 15-year-old. But the thing is, even if you're knocked down, you have to rebuild yourself up, rebuild your results. It's just all about determination in the end.
Nice. All about determination. All about determination. All right. Rishi, to close out this wonderful interview, what advice would you have for people watching?
Yeah, so I think you guys covered a lot of it. It's really about outlasting the no's. And for me, if you want a catchphrase from me, it would be embrace the uncomfortableness. You need to recognize that it's fine. It's okay to walk up to a random adult and ask them for a business card. I did so. I was at a youth advocacy summit at my local government, and The keynote speaker was someone who leads Down syndrome classes for individuals with Down syndrome. And afterwards, I went up to her. I got her business card. I mean, we're all about educational inequity and solving that. And I figured, why not expand that scope? So it was about going up, saying, "Hey, can I get that business card? Hey, can we talk more about this?" The other day, I was in a meeting with Karen Scher, one of the Oxnard School Unified trustees, and it was about, "Hey, can we get your number? Hey, can I help implement these programs in these Oxnard schools?" So the biggest thing is just going up, and I guess kind of like someone at SpeakUp Scholars would want to say, speak up. Go out there and put yourself out there. It's fine to, like Sina was saying, it's fine to get a no, but the biggest thing is, can you persevere? And I think that's the biggest difference between those who are able to successfully start and scale one and those who aren't. And I guess my second advice would be to quite literally just start, do something. Yes, talking about it is great, and yes, all of that planning, like in the preliminary stages, is essential. But after that, it's about, can you start, and it's about, can you take that action? So like I was saying earlier, the first thing I did was create a website, and then I was calling my friends. And although we weren't doing a whole lot of stuff in the beginning, the fact that I had started, the fact that I had recruited volunteers who were willing to help and who were willing to put their time into SpeakUp Scholars and its mission was the biggest thing. Because later on, when SpeakUp Scholars did start to pick up, all of those volunteers weren't just sitting around. They were all spending active time. Like I think today we have 18 tutoring sessions all around the organization who will be using our volunteers. So that's the biggest thing. It's to get people and start and do something.
You know what? You remind me so much of Kannan, because that is exactly what he said as well in the previous interview. It was like, if you want to start something, start it now. Like most people would be like, well, I'll start this like later. I'll start in 2 weeks. Let's not do that. Just start it now. And I think one thing that he also said that I think you guys reflected perfectly throughout this interview is, if not you, who? If not now, when? And I feel like the advice that you gave and the advice that Sina gave and just everything that you mentioned throughout this interview has showed that if you overcome the if not you, who, the if not now, when, then you can really do great things. If you just buckle down, start, and you make a plan, you know where you're going, you get in contact with whether it's like your friends or like a family friend, or just getting in contact with someone and gathering support for your mission so that you're ready for when your organization really takes off. And another point that I really liked in your answer was embracing the uncomfortableness. And I think I can speak for this as well. For me, it's always been like uncomfortable for me to like just go up to a random adult like I'm seeing in the park and like talk to them about like an issue I care about, being like, would you want to get in contact about this, or like following up with them. And I feel like that's another barrier that's really important to overcome when we're looking to start an organization similar to the one that you guys manage. It's just being able to embrace the uncomfortableness, whether it's by like talking to someone you've never met before, or by like doing the painstaking work of doing all the cold outreach and sending all these emails. A lot of it is just overcoming these barriers. And I think that's something that both of you have done a lot in the management and startup of SpeakUp Scholars. So I applaud you for your work, I applaud you for your answers, and I applaud you for everything that you've done for so many children and youth in schools around the world. So thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for watching. Thank you so much for sharing in my, I guess, learning experience about SpeakUp Scholars, about these two amazing individuals who have made so much difference in the lives of people around the world. So thank you for coming on the channel. Thank you everybody for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, click the little bell icon. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, dare to dream big.